Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Adobe InDesign and how to use layers effectively. While we've already learned about Illustrator or Photoshop and we have layers in both of those programs and it's a similar setup, I want to make sure that you genuinely have a well-versed understanding of how to manipulate layers while using Adobe InDesign. It's a different process that we design in this program because of what we're functioning and using it for, so I want to make sure that we've had some practice. What I've given you is a 5-page document. I've given you 2 spreads that you're going to be able to manipulate on cookbook pages that I've designed. Um, I have most of the design right. There is some stacking order issues that you're going to need to make sure you adjust, and we're going to do some grouping. If you do not have your layers panel pulled up, mine's a default in my workspace that I have arranged. Remember, you can go to the window menu and make sure that your layers is activated. I just typically keep mine up because I do like to go through and organize my stuff and organize my layers. Now, one of the key fundamental differences when working with layers, I'm going to pull my pages out here so that you can see my pages versus my layers, is that when we manipulate our layers, now I have 2 already. I have one that's got the instructions and I've locked that for you. You can arrow down just like the normal to see that everything is under there. Now, what's interesting is I'm going to layer down here. And if you'll see, there's nothing here for layer 1. Why? Because I'm on page 1 and I have nothing in layer 1 on page 1, but I'm going to move to page 2. Look what happened. Do you see how it shifted? On page 2, I have all sorts of stuff. Now, if I switch on page 3, nothing changes in my layers because the layer is going to treat it as a spread. And if you see down here, it's going to say pages 2 and 3, 2 layers. It's going to show me what's being displayed in that layer for just that page, which I think that's kind of nice. That way you're not digging through stuff that's for the cookie section, so you don't need to worry about what that is. Now, a couple of things about InDesign that's a little different. One of the things is I can't rename my layers. It's going to automatically name it based on what is in it. So for example, the creamy lemon chicken parmesan piccata, what did I ever name this? When I click on this and you'll see it's down here, if I hover over it, it's going to tell me exactly what is in that object. It does not allow me to rename it, which can be a little frustrating for if you're used to being able to rename things. I genuinely understand that, especially like if I have multiple rectangles and ovals, that can be a little frustrating to not have the option to rename my stuff. But I digress. In addition, we also have the layer panel menu, just like we did before. This one is a really great one where we have the ability to delete unused layers. So anything that is empty, I don't have any empty layers, but we'll just make one real quick. Layer 3. Now, if I go to use unused layers, it's going to delete that layer 3 because there was nothing in it. And it's going to help us keep everything a little streamlined. We also have our layers option where if you open this up, you can do a few things. And if you go through those directions, you're going to see I'm asking you some things on the layers option. But I can name my layers here. So if I want to call this spreads or chicken or cookies or whatever it is that I want to do, I can rename it. I can also change the color of that layer. So remember, when we select things, it's going to change. It's going to do the selection based on the layer color. So if you don't like the light blue, maybe you want regular blue or you want teal or pink or whatever floats your boat, you can change that. I change the color of my layer color depending on the background color. Sometimes I don't like yellow, for example. That one's really hard to see. But if I'm on a dark background, yellow is a great one. So it just kind of depends on your personal preference. You also can show the layer. You can lock the layer, print the layer. Print layer means that when you go to print this, if this is turned on, it's going to print everything in that layer. If I don't want anything on that layer to print, maybe I have notes, maybe I have guides, maybe, like I did like some rectangle guides for myself, or I had things that I'm not sure, I can turn that off. I can also show my guides and lock my guides and suppress text wrap when layer is hidden. So we have lots of different choices in here. What I've given you, again, is a series of instructions, and I want you to be able to go through this to help you really get everything nice and organized, to figure out what you're doing and how you're doing it. First, you're gonna, on each spread, create 2 layers, one for the text and one for the graphics. So first, I have to come down to this spread. I'm gonna create a new layer on this one, and I'm gonna rename that layer text. Oh, Siri, I'm good. Text, and then I'm going to start moving everything that is text into that layer. You can just grab these and then drag and drop. Now, this is also a little different. You don't, in Illustrator or Photoshop, you would actually like get to hover over the layer. You don't get to do that in this program. You basically have to select, and then we're going to drag and just kind of drop it under it, if that makes sense. So now they're starting to, if I toggle down, I can see them. So I personally would say once you get all your text moved, then you can rename the other one graphics. We also want to ensure that all the objects are in the correct stacking order. There is something that's being blocked, so please make sure that you find that. On pages 4 and 5, I've got some compound paths. Please make sure we find those, and we're going to group those. So definitely take a look and try to find them. In order to group something, you have to have multiple things selected, and you can do Object, Group, or Command G, which is my personal preference, or it is also on your quick actions on your properties panel. Go back up to page 1. All of our colors are the same color, so you want to make sure that we get everything really organized and choose new colors for every layer. And then we're going to turn off the print for my directions layer. So make sure you go back to your layer options and do that. One of the things you want to make sure is go through and make sure you don't have any errors. I do have some errors here underneath my pre-flight panel. So you've got some missing links. I've got some text stuff. So if you are missing stuff, you want to resolve some of this before you finish your document. Once you're done, you're going to file, save as, last name, first name, period. And we're going to call this layers ID or layers in InDesign, your preference. And we're going to turn it in. Hope that was a really good explanation for what it is you're doing. I genuinely think getting into it and practicing and manipulating is going to be the best way to learn. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.